Okay, taking a brief detour from Vikings all the time. Uh, got a little Twins news. Big news, the one that we've all been waiting for. Uh, the Carlos Correa news came down uh, late tonight. He is gone. He is a San Francisco Giant. 13 years, $350 million. Um, So finally, Twins fans can drop the delusion that he was ever going to stay here, because he was never going to stay here. It was always going to be just for the 1 year, and then he was going to get the hell out of here and go someplace where he would much rather be and actually have a chance to win. Um, so you know, and also I guess the report out there that the Twins offer was for 10 and I think 280, which that's a lucrative offer. It ain't close in terms of the total, and it's one of these things. The Twins have done this for years. And the media carries water for them on this. Every time they'll report, anytime we're in on a free agent and we don't get them, they'll report, oh well, we made a really nice offer. Well, they know they can make an offer. Like, they knew that, like, 10 for 280, they can make that offer. And a guy like Correa, he's not going to take the offer, but then they can come back and say, well, look at this offer we made. It's for PR and nothing else. So I'm kind of a split mind on this, because one, like, that contract is ridiculous, and I know that, like, it's free agency in sports, contracts are always ridiculous. That's a ridiculous contract. Correa's a good player. He ain't worth that money. Give me a break. He drove in like 60, what was it, 64 runs last year, and he had a pretty good year, and he drove in 64 runs for a team that finished solidly under 500 and completely fell apart. Like like the Twins can be shitty next year without Carlos Correa for that money. Um, I would not have given that contract to him. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't. There's almost nobody who in baseball who I personally would give that contract to. But the problem is, the poll ads, they never give that. They never give money to anybody. They don't spend money, and they just and the you know the pocket protectors for the poll ads. They always have the same stuff about, well, they can only spend so much money. They can spend as much money as they want. Um, I don't think anyone's expecting them to be up there with the LAs and the New Yorks year after year, but they never are even in the game. They're just never in the game. And there's other free agents out there that they may be linked to, and maybe they'll even sign one of them now. But um, you know, they're never in the game. And I know I think even if they had um, even if they had matched, hell, maybe even if they had exceeded the offer that the Giants gave Correa, I still don't think he's staying here. And why? Because he wants to win. If you're going to sign for 13 years somewhere, you want to sign somewhere where that organization will try to win. And he was here for a year. He saw everything that every Twins fan saw this year, that this organization is a fucking disaster. They are a rudderless ship with a terrible front office, a bad manager, just a disaster, all around. Like, training staff, everything was a disaster this past year, and he knows that, and he sees that. He's like, you know, I'm not gonna re up in this with this franchise for the rest of my career. I mean, this contract will take him into his 40s. It'll fucking take me well into my 50s. Good lord, passage of time is a beast. Um, and we might all be just crushed by an asteroid by then. Who knows? Um, but yeah, like the fans who thought Correa was coming back, like they finally have to accept reality, because he was never coming back here, which is why I wanted him traded at the deadline this year, because at that point it was obvious that the Twins were not going to win a World Series, and once it became obvious that they were not going to win a World Series, they needed to trade this guy and get something in return. Instead, they got absolutely nothing. They got nothing. They got nothing out of it, and ultimately it was probably a net loss to even sign him in the first place because it raised expectations for a season that turned into a fucking disaster, and now you lose this guy for nothing, which we all saw coming, except for them, except for this front office that always thinks they know better, even though they have accomplished nothing. Um, so it's not even frustrating because I knew it was going to happen. It's the reason that the Twins have fallen off. People don't care much about the Twins. I'm doing a Twins video right now. It will get no views because nobody fucking cares about the Twins. They just don't, and they're not going to care because they're going to be terrible next year. And maybe they'll go sign somebody here. They've got a lot of money. They signed a catcher a couple days ago, but I mean they've done very very little. They kept Emilio Pagan, which is just as preposterous a roster decision as I've ever seen a team make in this town. Um, and maybe they'll still go sign somebody, but they're not going to be any good next year. They're never going to be good, and they're never going to win a World Series, not with this ownership. And Correa saw that, and so he was never going to come back. He was always going to, you know, I guess if we had given him like $500 million or something, maybe he would have just, at that point, it would have been like, well, I mean, I want to win, but I also can't turn down all that extra money. So I don't begrudge him this or anything. I don't think he wasn't like a bad guy here. He wasn't he played a fairly decent season, but and he ain't worth that money because almost nobody's worth that money. But I don't begrudge him getting that money. And we'll see what happens with the Twins now. But this whole ordeal, this whole one season of Correa was a big waste of time in my opinion, and it just shows again that this franchise is just not, they're not cut out for competing in what baseball is in 2022 and going into 2023. They're just not willing to do it. They're just not willing to do what needs to be done. Whether that's, and in free agency you have to overpay. That's just the reality. But they're not developing anybody. They don't develop players. They don't do anything. They're happy if they win a crappy division and get swept in the playoffs, and that's just how they are. And most players out there want more than that. When they have options, if they can, if a guy like Carlos Correa can go get a big contract elsewhere, he ain't gonna show loyalty to this franchise. Why would he? He didn't start his career here. Why would he stay? There'd be no reason to stay because the Twins are never going to win a World Series again in my lifetime. I will guarantee if I haven't been crushed by an asteroid like the rest of us in 13 years, I'll come back in 13 years if YouTube still exists. I'll make another video, and I'll reassess, and I guarantee that the Twins will still have not won a World Series in those 13 years. And there's maybe the Giants will win one, but the Twins will never win one again, and that's just the reality. So, Carlos, best of luck to you in San Francisco. I don't begrudge you anything. I hope you do well. Hell, I hope you win a World Series over there because I have nothing against the Giants. And we'll just continue to watch this useless Twins franchise stumble about.